My auto repair shop has been open in this town for exactly 8 years, and it's all thanks to my 4 apprentices keeping the place running. They know exactly how important they are, too. They're always asking for a raise every few days. But this time, they went ahead and demanded an absolutely outrageous deal. They even threatened to quit as a group just to force my hand. When I walked into the office, I saw it wasn't just Zhou Xiaowei in there. Ah Chang, Da Lu, Ah Ming, all 4 of them were sitting across the desk. Zhou Xiaowei was sitting right in the middle. There were already 3 crushed cigarette butts in the ashtray in front of him. "Boss, have a seat." I didn't sit. I just leaned against the edge of the desk. "What is it? Spit it out." Zhou Xiaowei took a final drag of his cigarette and crushed it out in the ashtray. He wouldn't even look at me. "Boss, us brothers had a little talk. This shop has been open for 8 years. You know exactly what's kept it going all this time. You should know it deep down. What kept it going? It's our skills. The customers who come into this shop, they all come strictly for our handiwork. Not for you, the boss. Think about it. How many times have you actually crawled under a car in the past few years?" I didn't say a word. So, us brothers feel that this dead-end salary we're getting right now just doesn't match the skills we bring to the table. We're not asking for the moon here. A 20% raise, and we want equity shares for our skills. The office went dead silent for a good moment. "Boss, the business in this shop runs entirely on our backs. If you don't agree to this." "If I don't agree, then what?" Zhou Xiaowei stood up, grabbed the wrench on the desk, and slammed it hard against the table. "If you don't agree, then his brothers are walking out of here right now." I stared at the wrench on the desk. That was my wrench. It was wrapped in anti-slip grip tape. Tape that I had wrapped around it myself. It had been 8 years. The tape was already worn shiny from use. "Boss, you better think this through. Without us, this shop of yours won't last a month before it shuts down." He didn't get to finish his sentence, but I knew exactly what he was trying to say. I looked at the 4 men standing in front of me. When they first started here 8 years ago, they didn't even know which way to turn a wrench to loosen a lug nut. "Are you done? Then listen to me. These terms you brought up, I'm rejecting all of them. You want to quit? Fine, I accept. Your paychecks will be cleared and paid out today. Starting tomorrow, you don't need to come in to work ever again." Zhou Xiaowei froze for a couple of seconds. He clearly didn't expect me to agree so easily, but he quickly pulled himself back together. "You've got guts, Chen Dahe, you better not regret this." He turned around and stormed out. "Boss, you're getting old. Boss, how could you actually let them leave? What are we going to do if they're all gone? We still have 3 cars waiting to be fixed tomorrow." "Sister Lee, stay calm. Let's get the shop closed first. We are not taking any more jobs today. No more jobs. As for those customers, I will handle them." I walked over to the front desk. "We have run into a bit of a situation here. We will not be able to finish your scheduled repair." After I hung up the very last call, I stood there in the empty garage. 2 car lifts, 2 cars hoisted halfway up in the air, and tools scattered all over the floor. I didn't go home. I just sat on the steps right out front, and sat there until it got dark. The next morning, I got to the shop at 6:30. When I pushed the doors open, my eyes immediately went to the middle drawer of the desk. The lock had been pried open. The drawer was left wide open, and the metal box holding all of our client files was gone. I just stood there in front of the desk, staring at the busted drawer. I had that lock for 6 years. It was covered in scratches from me accidentally scraping it with my keys over the years. Now, the metal was completely warped. When Sister Lee came in for work and saw the open drawer, her voice was shaking. "Boss, should we call the cops? Calling them won't do any good. Whoever did this knew exactly what they wanted. They came straight for the client list. Who else could it be, other than Zhou Xiaowei? My apprentice. The kid I took under my wing for 8 whole years, and this is the parting gift he leaves me. A broken, busted lock." I was just about to push the drawer shut, when my phone rang. It was from one of my oldest clients. "Boss Chen, your apprentice, Xiaowei, he gave me a call last night. He said he is opening his own shop, and offering 50% off on labor. He even said you don't have anyone left at your place to fix cars anymore. Is that true?" I stood there in the empty garage gripping my phone, completely speechless. I didn't go home that night either. All by myself, I lowered the 2 cars off the lifts, one by one, and parked them safely on the street outside. 2 cars, 2 sets of keys. I called the owners one after the other. "Yeah, your car is ready to go. There is no charge when you come pick it up tomorrow. Boss Chen, are you okay? Did something happen? I am fine. By the time I hung up that last call, it was already 11 at night. I sat on the steps out front, just staring blankly at the tire tracks on the road. It has been 8 years. I could close my eyes and draw exactly where every single crack in this road is. Suddenly, my phone lit up. It was a social media post from Ah Chang. Grand opening, Xiaowei Auto Repair, the premier shop at the edge of town. 50% off all labor costs. Calling all our old clients to come show your support. There was a huge red banner printed with bright golden letters. Zhou Xiaowei was standing in the doorway, wearing a brand new blue mechanic's uniform. Smiling from ear to ear, I stared at that photo for a long time, before finally turning my screen off. The next morning, I was at the shop by 6 o'clock. I rolled up the shutters and pulled open my toolbox. I took out every single tool, piece by piece. The wrenches, the sockets, the torque wrench, Allen wrenches, tools I'd saved up for over 8 years. 2 massive boxes full of them. I grabbed a rag, and started wiping them down one by one. I took my time. There was a rust spot on the torque wrench. It was from 3 years ago, when I was fixing a flooded car. And forgot to dry it off. I sprayed it twice with rust remover. Lightly sanded it down, and gave it a fresh coat of anti-rust oil. Once the torque wrench was clean, I lined them all up by size, one by one. And put them back into the toolbox. Just as I was cleaning the third wrench, Sister Lee walked in. She stood at the doorway, staring at me squatting on the floor, cleaning my tools. She froze for a few seconds. Boss, do you not have any work today? Nope, not a single car. Sister Lee dropped her bag on the front desk. Old Lou from the hardware store said, Xiaowei and his guys set off firecrackers at the edge of town yesterday. They threw a whole grand opening ceremony. The banner out front says 50% off all labor, and they've got a massive megaphone playing it on loop by the road. I didn't stop what I was doing. He's been calling our customers, one by one, telling them to bring their cars over to his place for repairs. Half-price labor. A bunch of our regulars have already gone over there. Boss, are you seriously not worried? They are flat out stealing our business. I placed the clean wrench back into the toolbox, and picked up the next one. Let them steal it. What do you mean, let them steal it? The crazier his discounts are right now, the faster he's gonna crash and burn. 50% off labor? He won't even make enough to cover his rent. He won't last more than a few months. You're right, but I just can't swallow this anger. You took care of that kid for 8 years. He ate your food, slept under your roof. And in the end, he poaches your customers and opens up a shop right across the street. Sister Lee, go balance the books. Check how much parts inventory we have left from last month. Sister Lee stared at me for a few seconds, then turned and walked away. By 2 p.m., I had finished cleaning both boxes of tools. I shut the lid, pushed them into the corner, and stood up to stretch my back. 0 cars all day long. Sister Lee came running in from the front desk. Boss, come out here and look. I followed her out to the doorway. The sound of firecrackers and blasting music was coming from the edge of town. You could hear it crystal clear, even 2 streets away. I stood at the door and glanced in that direction. Xiaowei Auto Repair's bright red banner was flapping in the wind. There was a whole line of cars parked out front, with people constantly walking in and out. That's old Zhao's car, our regular. He just got his transmission fluid changed here last month. I stayed quiet, and look at that white Wuling van. That's old Lou's delivery van. You've been fixing his car for 3 years straight. He always talks about how good your work is. Stop looking. Pull the rolling shutter halfway down. We're closing up. Closing up now? But it's only 4 o'clock. Just close it. I walked back into my office, and shut the door behind me. I left the lights off. Sitting in the dark, just 2 streets away, the faint sound of music drifted over, mixed with firecrackers and people laughing. My phone lit up again. An unknown number. I opened it. Master, did you see my new shop? 50% off labor. Business is booming. Do you even have anyone coming to your shop anymore? If you can't hold on, just say the word and I'll send a few customers your way. I stared at those words for a long time. I didn't reply. I just deleted the text and put my phone on the table. That night, I didn't go home. I slept on the old sofa in the shop, covered with a work jacket. I woke up once in the middle of the night. The garage was pitch black. The 4-car lift stood there completely empty, like 4 handless robots. I rolled over, wrapping the jacket a little tighter around me. The next morning, before the sun was even fully up, I went to the breakfast stand at the corner for some soy milk and fried dough. "Boss Chen, I heard something your old head apprentice said at the edge of town yesterday." "What was it he said?" "My master's skills are completely outdated. Who still crawls under cars to feel around with their hands these days?" "Boss Chen, don't take it to heart. You know how he runs his mouth. It's fine." I took my breakfast and headed back. I glanced over at Xiaowei Auto Repair. The wind was blowing red firecracker scraps all over their doorway. I didn't stop. I just walked back into my shop. I sat on the front steps, finished my soy milk, ate my fried dough, and then, I stood up. I walked over to the corner, grabbed those 2 boxes of tools I'd spent all day cleaning, and pulled them back out, piece by piece. I looked at the gleaming tools. Then, I pulled out an old piece of plywood from the corner, and wrote a few lines on it, specializing in the toughest car problems. "If other shops can't fix it, bring it here." "What the hell did you write here?" "A sign." "What sign?" "My new sign." Day 2 of putting up the new sign, it didn't bring in a single customer. What is this even supposed to mean? Specializing in the toughest car problems? Who's gonna believe that? People take one look and see you don't have a single car in the shop. Who would dare bring their car to you? I didn't answer him. I just sat on the stool by the door, flipping through my old notebook. I've had that notebook for 8 years. The leather cover is already worn white. The edges are all curled up. And inside, it's packed full, with notes on every single car model, common problems, and exactly how to fix them. Just after 10 in the morning, Ah Chang came by. He stood at the door, scratching his head. "Master, I'm here to grab my toolbox. It's in the back corner. Grab it yourself." Ah Chang walked in. His footsteps were really light. He went to the corner and picked up his toolbox. He paused for a second when he walked past me. "Master, Little Wei said that if you're willing to come over, he'll give you a master mechanic spot. The pay is way better than what you're making now." "I'll pass, Master." "Ah Chang, if you want to leave, I'm not gonna stop you. But don't try to talk me into leaving." Da Lu came by this afternoon too. "Master, I'm here to grab my stuff." "Go ahead." He came in, dug through a drawer, and took a few of his go-to wrenches and a torque wrench. Sister Lee was standing at the front desk, watching Da Lu stuff the tools into his bag. She bit her lip, not saying a word. Finally, she couldn't hold it in anymore. "Boss, doesn't this hurt you?" "Hurt about what?" "They're leaving one by one. You've taken care of them for so many years, and they just up and leave, each one colder than the last, without even a proper goodbye. They've got their own legs, they can walk. Then you should at least go say something to them. Even cursing them out would be better. Let them know you're pissed off. What's the point of yelling? When they made this decision, they already knew perfectly well that I'd be angry. Whether I yell or not, they're already gone." Sister Lee opened her mouth to speak, but just turned around and walked back behind the front desk. I sat by the door. There was a deep crack on the grayish-white floor tile. That was from years ago, when an engine block dropped and smashed into it while I was tearing it down. I closed my eyes, thinking of him at 16. Thinking of how he looked when he first came to the shop that year, all skin and bones. "My son doesn't want to go to school anymore. He wants to learn a trade from you." "Alright, let him shadow me." On the first day, I asked him to hand me a wrench. He couldn't tell a size 10 from a size 12, and got it wrong 3 times. I didn't yell at him. I just taught him to identify them one by one. 1 week later, he learned how to change the oil. 1 month later, he could take off and mount a tire all by himself. The first engine I ever taught him to rebuild was from an old Jetta. I held his hands, teaching him how to align the timing gears perfectly. His hands were so small, he couldn't even grip the torque wrench properly. So I took the handle of that wrench and wrapped it in a few layers of grip tape, just to make it easier for him to hold. We spent 3 whole days tearing down and rebuilding that Jetta's engine. The day we finally put it together, his face was covered in motor oil. But he was smiling from ear to ear. "Master, I did it. You've still got a long road ahead, kid." 8 years, from not being able to grip a torque wrench, to overhauling engines all on his own, from grabbing the wrong wrenches, to diagnosing problems just by listening to the engine. For 8 years, I taught him every single thing I knew. I didn't just teach him how to fix cars. I taught him how to talk to customers, how to give quotes, and how to tell if a car was even worth fixing. And when he left, he stole my entire client list. I opened my eyes. The sunlight was still shining on the floor tiles by the door. That crack was still there, but there was no one around to hand me a wrench. Late in the afternoon, right around closing time, a middle-aged guy with glasses showed up at the door. He stared at the new sign for a bit, then peeked inside the shop. He hesitated for a second, then walked right in. I stood up. Need a fix? He looked me up and down. Are you the boss? Yeah, I am. Your sign says you fix tricky problems? For real? Yeah, for real. I've taken my car to 3 different places and nobody could fix it. You want to take a look? What kind of car? An old Toyota Crown. Year 2000. 300,000 kilometers on it. It shakes like crazy when it's idling, and there's just no power when I accelerate. Mechanics in town said the engine might need a complete overhaul. Quoted me 4 or 5,000. I really don't want to drop that kind of money. If you can fix it, and the price is right, I'll do it. I reached up and grabbed that old notebook off the wall. I flipped through a few pages. A year 2000 Crown. JCS 155 series. 3.0 liter inline 6. The rough idling is most likely just worn out ignition coils, or maybe the spark plug wires are shorting out. You don't even need to look at the car? Nope, I've fixed tons of cars with those exact symptoms. Alright then, take a look for me. I grabbed my coveralls off the wall and patted the dust off them. Where's the car? I followed the guy with the glasses across the street. And there it was, the old Crown. Silver gray body. The paint had lost its shine, but the body lines were still dead straight. Year 2000 JZS 155 series, with a 3.0 liter inline 6 engine. Brand new, it went for over 400,000. Now, on the used market, you'd be lucky to get 10 grand for it. But this car has one massive upside. As long as you maintain it right, it'll easily run for another 10 years. I didn't rush to pop the hood right away. I took a slow walk around the car, and checked the smoke coming from the exhaust. A faint, pale gray. No blue smoke, and no black smoke. I squatted down to take a peek underneath. Not a single obvious oil leak under the chassis. When you drove it over, was the idle steady? Not at all. When I stop at a red light, it shakes violently. Even the steering wheel rattles. How about accelerating? It's super sluggish when I step on the gas. Just feels totally gutless. Oddly enough, once I hit 60, it smooths out a bit. I nodded, just like I thought. At low speeds, the ignition energy is too weak. But at highway speeds, there's less load on the ignition system. So you don't feel it as much. Classic symptom of worn-out ignition coils. I popped the hood and pointed to the row of ignition coils on the right side of the engine. Full set takes 6 coils. The original factory ones are pricey. Aftermarket parts are half the price. Which one do you want? What do you think? The factory parts will easily last you 80 to 100,000 kilometers. The cheap ones might fail again in 2 years. Spread those extra few hundred out over 8 years, and it's basically nothing. You're a pretty honest guy. Those other shops, right off the bat, they told me they might have to pull the engine. Quoted me 3 or 4,000 at least. And they wouldn't even guarantee it'd fix the problem. But you? First thing you say is ignition coils. They didn't even give me a real quote. Pulling the engine. They were trying to scam you. There's nothing wrong with the engine itself. It's just the ignition system getting old. A new set of ignition coils and spark plug wires will sort it right out. How much? The original factory ignition coils are 1,200. Aftermarket ones are 600. Original wires are 300. It's up to you. Original parts. Go with original for everything. You got it. Leave the car here. You can pick it up tomorrow afternoon. The guy handed me the keys and took a few steps away. Then he turned back around. Hey, boss. Aren't you worried about me leaving my car here? What if you wreck it while taking it apart? If I wreck it, I'll buy you the exact same model. He chuckled and walked away. I bent down, just about to hop into the driver's seat, when I caught something out of the corner of my eye toward the edge of town. Someone was watching me. I stood back up, and took a look over there. Joe Xiaowei was standing by the door of his shop, arms crossed over his chest, staring right in my direction. From a block away, I couldn't make out the look on his face. But judging by his posture, he definitely saw it. He saw the guy with the glasses hand me the keys. I slid into the driver's seat of the Crown. I pulled it into the bay right in front of the shop and popped the hood. I started pulling out those 6 ignition coils. By the time I got to the 3rd one, someone strolled in through the door. It was old Lou from the hardware store next door. He stood there watching for a good while. Boss Chen, people are still bringing their cars to your shop? Yep. That Crown over there? Yep. You'd better watch your back. That apprentice of yours is going around telling everyone your shop is going under. Saying you don't even know how to use an OBD scanner properly anymore. He even posted about it online. He pulled out his phone, swiped a bit, and held it right in front of my face. On the screen was his social media post. Joe Xiaowei had written about complicated repairs. My old boss doesn't even know how to use a scanner, yet he claims to specialize in complicated repairs. His bag of tricks might have worked 10 years ago, but who still diagnoses cars by feel nowadays? Attached below was a picture. It was a close-up of that plywood sign outside my door. He'd clearly taken it on the sly. Ah Cheng had liked the post down below. And Big Lou had replied with a facepalm laughing emoji. I handed the phone back to old Lou. Let him talk. You're not mad? What's the point of getting mad? If he's talking trash like this, it means he's getting nervous. Nervous about what? He's terrified I might actually fix that crown. Old Lou didn't say another word. He stood there for a minute, then turned and walked out. That afternoon, I pulled all 6 ignition coils out. Taking a closer look at them, 3 of them already had visible cracks. High voltage was arcing right out of those splits. It left these yellow burn marks all over the engine block. 2 others didn't have any cracks, but the rubber O-rings had gone completely hard. They weren't sealing a damn thing anymore. So this is what they meant by a car that 3 different shops couldn't fix. All 3 of those shops were looking into some complicated internal engine failure. Not a single one of them bothered to check the simplest thing first, the ignition system. After I swapped in the new ignition coils and spark plug wires and got everything set up, it fired right up on the first try. The idle was so smooth, you'd think the engine wasn't even running. I sat in the driver's seat just to get a feel for it. The steering wheel wasn't shaking anymore, and the throttle response was a whole lot snappier. I didn't shut it off right away. I just sat there in the cab, letting the engine run for a good 10 minutes or so. Once I made sure the engine temp was normal and the idle stayed steady, with absolutely 0 error codes popping up, that's when I finally killed the engine. When I stepped out, Sister Lee was standing right there watching. It's all good to go, I told her. It really was that simple. You know, when it comes to mechanical skills, if you know what you're doing, it's a piece of cake. But if you don't, it feels like the end of the world. The very next afternoon, that guy with the glasses showed up right on time. The second he sat in the driver's seat and started the car, the look on his face completely changed. He froze for a second, then gave the steering wheel a little turn. Just feeling it out. It's fixed. It's completely fixed. He said, what was your name again? Chen Da-hei. Look, if you're still worried about it, take it out for a spin. And he actually did take it out for a quick test drive. 10 minutes later, he pulled back in. As he got out of the car, he had this huge smile on his face. It was that surprised kind of smile, like he just scored a massive bargain. Man, you are seriously good, he told me. I took this thing to 4 other shops, and they either told me I needed a complete engine rebuild, or told me to just buy a new car. And here you are, fixing it for $1,500. From now on, you're the only guy touching my family's cars. I'm going to spread the word for you. Let's add each other on WeChat. I'll pull you into a few group chats. A bunch of my coworkers have older cars, and they've been dying to find a mechanic they can actually trust. That guy with the glasses, I only found out later that he was a retired vice principal from the county high school, Mr. Wu. He sent out a message in the chat saying, "Hey everyone, I want to recommend a great mechanic. His name is Chen Da-hei, over in town. He specializes in older cars. His work is top-notch, and his prices are super fair." At night, my phone was buzzing non-stop until 11 o'clock. Sister Lee was watching the whole thing, her jaw practically on the floor. Boss, doing this one job right did more for us than running 10 different ads. I didn't say a word. I just sat there on my stool, adding new friends one by one, and replying to every single message. Over by the edge of town, Joe Xiaowei's auto shop closed up early today, right around 5 in the afternoon. Sister Lee told me about it. She had walked past it while she was out getting groceries. After the old principal posted that update to his feed, the very next morning, we had 3 cars lined up waiting outside the shop. The first one was an old Santana, a 2005 model with over 200,000 kilometers on the dash. The owner was a guy in his 50s. Whenever he drove it, there was this awful clanking noise coming from the chassis. He'd asked 2 other shops, and both of them told him he needed to replace the entire lower control arm assembly. They quoted him over $1,000. I just squatted down, shined my flashlight underneath, and gave it a little wiggle with my pry bar. You don't need a whole new assembly, I told him. It's just the lower control arm bushing that's worn out. Replacing the bushing is all you need. 120? Yeah, go ahead and do it. I'm only coming to you for car repairs from now on. You swapped out 2 bushings in just 40 minutes. I took him out for a spin to test it. The chassis stopped rattling. He parked the car, crouched down, and looked at the old bushings I took off. The rubber was already cracked into a bunch of pieces, with little crumbles falling all over the ground. Just this piece of junk? He said. The last 2 shops quoted me over $1,000. The second car was an old 2008 Buick Regal. The AC wasn't blowing cold air anymore, and driving it in the summer felt like sitting in a sauna. He'd had it recharged with Freon last year, but it didn't even last 2 months before it stopped blowing cold again. Just needs a quick weld, I told him. Weld it up, then recharge the Freon. $300 in total. He stood right next to me, watching as I welded those 2 leaks. Once I finished welding, I vacuumed the lines and recharged the Freon. Man, are you crazy? He asked. Other places quoted me $2,800 for this, and you're only charging $300? The condenser itself is fine, I replied. It was just 2 tiny holes. It'd be a waste to replace the whole thing. The third car was an older Toyota RAV4. The owner was a woman in her early 30s, and her check engine light was on. She'd had it checked at another shop in town, and they told her she needed a whole new oxygen sensor assembly. They quoted me $1,000, she said. I thought that was way too expensive, so I held off on fixing it. I hooked up my scanner to read the codes, and it showed an abnormal voltage signal from the front oxygen sensor. I crawled under the car to check the sensor's wiring harness, and sure enough, the wires had been chewed right through by mice. Just 2 broken wires, I told her. I'll splice them back together, and you'll be good to go. $50. Just 50? She asked. Yeah, because your oxygen sensor itself is perfectly fine. The mice just chewed the wires, that's all. When she was leaving, she poked her head out the window. Hey, mechanic, there are way too few honest mechanics like you around these days. That afternoon, Lee Jia was up at the front desk, answering the phone until her hands cramped up. It was all calls from people in the old principal's retired teachers group. I was stuck under cars, knocking them out one by one, working straight from 8 in the morning until 6 in the evening. When we finally closed up shop, Lee Jia handed me the ledger. I took a look. The total revenue for the day was $860. The number wasn't huge, compared to the days when I had all 4 apprentices working here. It was a far cry. Back then, a full day fixing 4 cars, plus basic maintenance and minor repairs, would bring in around $2,000. But the gross profit on these 3 cars today was actually really high. There were no extra labor costs, I just charged for the materials at cost. And no one was taking a cut of the profits either. When you calculated the net profit, it really wasn't much less than before. We might have even more people tomorrow, she said. How do you know? I asked. Because the owners of those 3 cars from today, she smiled, once they get home, they're going to spread the word in their own social circles. Sure enough, that very night, my phone started buzzing again. First, it was the guy with the Santana, who posted a message in the local car owners group, highly recommending a mechanic. He wrote, Chen Dahe has been running his shop on the east side of town for 8 years now. I never knew his skills were this good. I went in for a repair today, and his quote was literally just a fraction of what other places charge. But the best part is, he actually does a fantastic job. Right after that, someone replied, Oh, I've heard of him. Didn't his apprentice open a shop at the edge of town? The Santana owner replied, Don't even mention that apprentice. His skills are nothing to write home about. And he isn't cheap, either. When I scrolled past this message, I was in the shop packing up my tools. I just set my phone down on the toolbox, and didn't reply. Over the next few days, the shop got busier and busier. Cars belonging to retired teachers, veteran cab drivers and local motor pools. They were all older models, 7 or 8 years and up. In the eyes of other mechanics, these cars are a total headache. They take up too much labor time, you barely make a dime off them. And there's no guarantee you can even fix them. Some shops will just straight up say, This car's way too old, parts are a nightmare to find. You might as well just buy a new one. But here at my place, these are exactly the kind of cars I know best. For 8 years now, over 60% of the cars I've taken in have been these old beaters with more than 10 years on the road. The common breakdowns, the usual quirks of every single model, where the wear and tear parts are, the tricks to fixing them. I've got it all memorized in my head. As the week went on, my work bays were never empty. Even though there wasn't a massive line out the door, I always had at least 3 or 4 cars waiting to be wrenched on every single day. Sister Lee was swamped working the front desk all by herself, so she started sticking the keys on the wall, sorting them by color. During the day, the keys would pile up, and by evening, as the cars drove off one by one, the keys came down one by one. By the time it got dark, the wall was empty again. Saturday evening, I was crouched out front, tightening a chassis bolt on an old Citroen Fukang. Out of the corner of my eye, looking towards the edge of town, I saw a white car pull over. It didn't turn into Joe Xiaowei's shop. Instead, it pulled a U-turn and headed straight for my place. The car parked right at my door, and as the window rolled down, I saw a face I knew well. It was old Huang, a guy who used to drive cabs around town. "Boss Chen," he said, "my ride's been jerking a lot lately when I hit the gas. Could you take a look? Weren't you going to the shop across town before?" Old Huang jerked his chin toward the edge of town. "Yeah, their prices ain't bad over there. But I went twice. First time, they didn't fix it right. Second time, they got it running, but less than a week later, it acted up again. I just feel safer bringing it to you." I stood up and laid my wrench on the hood. "Alright, what's going on with it? Talk to me." While old Huang was explaining, I caught sight of someone standing outside that shop down the road out of the corner of my eye, staring our way. It was a whole street away, so I couldn't make out the face. But from where he stood and how he carried himself, it was Joe Xiaowei. He had both hands shoved in his pockets, standing dead still, watching old Huang park at my door. Watching old Huang get out and talk to me, I squatted back down and started checking old Huang's car, not looking that way again, but I knew for a fact he was watching. He must have been racking his brain, wondering why he gave a 50% discount. And the customers were still running back to me. He definitely wanted to ask, "Master, what kind of trick are you pulling?" I didn't use any tricks. I just treat every car I work on like it was my own. That night, when we were closing up, Sister Lee told me something. "Ah Cheng from Xiaowei's shop dropped by this afternoon. I didn't ask you to come out. What's he doing here? He's not here for you. He sneaked over from across the street. He hung around the back street for a bit, like he was trying to count how many cars we had in the shop." I didn't say anything, but I know the feeling. Watching the other guy's shop get busier and busier, while your own place just gets deader by the day. That kind of sting is worse than getting cussed out, because when someone cusses you out, you can at least yell back. 2 weeks later, business at the shop finally steadied out. We were pulling in 3 or 4 cars on a slow day, and 5 or 6 on a busy one. All beaters, the kind of junk other shops wouldn't touch or just couldn't fix. Sister Lee kept a little notebook at the front desk, just to keep track of the waitlist. Keys were lined up across the whole board. I was doing the work of 4 guys all by myself, grinding from 7 in the morning until 8 at night, sometimes even 9. My back was so hunched I could barely stand up straight, and the wrenches were rubbing fresh calluses onto my fingers. But every single bay was full. Meanwhile, down at the edge of town, things were starting to go south at Xiaowei's shop. It started when Sister Lee mentioned something after coming back from the market. "Looks like Xiaowei took in a BMW," she said. "Needs a full engine rebuild." It was brought in on a flatbed, with a whole crowd watching. I didn't think much of it. A full rebuild on a BMW engine? It takes 2 days just to tear the damn thing down, and another 2 to put it back together. Throw in the time waiting for parts, and that car is hogging a bay for at least a week. With Xiaowei's skill level, there was no way he could handle a job like that. Sure enough, late afternoon, 3 days later, Sister Lee came running in from the front desk, and right behind her was a guy the first recognized. Old Qian, the guy who runs the hardware store in town. The second he walked in, he grabbed my arm and blurted out, "Boss Chen, you've got to come look. My nephew's BMW. Xiaowei really messed it up." "What happened?" I asked. "Well, my nephew's 5 Series had an engine rattle," he said. He took it to Xiaowei's place, and Xiaowei told him it needed a full rebuild. Quoted him 12 grand. My nephew doesn't know the first thing about cars, so he just agreed. They kept it for 3 days. He picked it up yesterday, drove it out, and didn't even make it 10 kilometers. The engine started rattling again. Even worse than before, sounded like someone was hammering away inside. So, he drove it right back to the shop. Xiao Wei said he needed to open it back up to take a look. So he tore it down again. After tearing it down, he claimed a part was installed backward and that he just needed to redo it. My nephew wasn't having it. He's blocking their door right now, demanding a full refund and compensation. I put down my wrench. And now? It's a total standoff right now. My nephew called a couple of his buddies over. Xiao Wei's got his 3 apprentices backing him up. It's about to turn into an all-out brawl. Sister Lee was standing by, watching us. Boss, she asked, are you gonna go check it out? I'm not going, I said. But it was your apprentice who wrecked that BMW. I didn't break it, it's got nothing to do with me. But, I suppose I could go take a look. By the time I got down to the edge of town, I could see Xiao Wei's auto repair from a mile away. There was a huge crowd swarming the entrance. A white 5 Series was parked out front, with the hood popped wide open. Some young guy was standing right by the bumper, red in the face and screaming his head off at the shop. 2 of his buddies were standing next to him with their hands on their hips. Inside the shop, Zhou Xiaowei was standing right by the car lift. Holding a wrench, he looked pale as a ghost. Ah Cheng, Ah Ming, and Da Lu were standing right behind him. Not a single one of them said a word, just stood at the edge of the crowd. I didn't try to push my way in. Someone nearby recognized me. Hey, isn't that Boss Chen? His old master is here. Oh, this is gonna be good. Zhou Xiaowei heard the whispering and looked up toward the crowd. The moment he saw me, his expression completely changed. It wasn't guilt, it was that uncomfortable feeling of being caught in such a pathetic state. He set down the wrench on the bench and walked away from the half-dismantled BMW. He walked toward the door and just stood there in front of that white BMW. What happened to this car? Did you put the timing chain on wrong? The valves are already bent. I walked over to the front of the BMW, leaned over, and took a look inside the engine bay. The valve cover was already off. I could clearly see the camshaft and the timing chain. The marks on the timing chain didn't line up with the crankshaft at all. It was off by several teeth. That meant when Xiao Wei was putting it together, he didn't line up the timing marks and just threw the chain right on. The second the engine cranked over, the pistons smashed right into the valves. The valves were completely bent, and there were dents smashed right into the top of the pistons. You didn't line up the marks when you put that timing chain on, did you? Zhou Xiaowei didn't say a word. He just stood there, with one hand shoved in his pocket. His other hand just hung by his side, and he wouldn't even look at me. Xiaowei, how many times have I told you? Before you put the timing chain on, you always make sure the crankshaft is at top dead center on cylinder 1, and the camshaft marks are facing up. Once the chain is on, you turn it by hand twice. To make absolutely sure the valves don't hit, and only then do you put the oil pan back on. Did I or did I not teach you that? He still wouldn't say anything, but I could see his hands starting to shake a little. Then, that young guy, the owner of the BMW, overheard us and stormed right over. So, this is the great apprentice you trained. Is this how you teach people? I stood up straight and looked him right in the eye. He used to be my apprentice. He isn't anymore. Well, then you need to take responsibility for this. Take responsibility for what? The name of my shop isn't Xiaowei Auto Repair. And that's not my name on the sign out front. You chose to bring your car to his shop. I didn't recommend him to you. He's the one who wrecked your car, so your problem is with him. Not me. The BMW owner was so stunned he couldn't even get a word out. He spun around and got right in Xiaowei's face. Well, what are you gonna do about this? I'll fix it for you. Fix it? You didn't even fix it right the first time. What if you put it back together and it breaks down again after another 10 miles? I don't trust you anymore. I want my money back. All 12,000, every single penny. And what about the damage to my engine? Look at what you did to the pistons. I already looked into it. This engine needs a complete rebuild now, and that's gonna cost at least 30,000. Xiao Wei's face went completely dead white. He opened his mouth, but absolutely nothing came out. From the back, Ah Chang muttered, "Wei, we don't have that kind of money in the account." Those words cut like a knife, ripping away his last shred of dignity. The crowd of onlookers went dead silent for a second or two, then erupted into buzzing whispers. I stood there, and just looked at that white BMW. Then I looked at Zhou Xiaowei's pale face. He kept his head down, staring at an oil stain on the ground, like he was praying it would swallow him whole. I turned around and walked away. The shouting continued behind me, getting louder and louder. I'd made it about 20 meters when I heard footsteps running up behind me. It was Ah Chang. He ran in front of me and blocked my way. "Master, please, you gotta help Wei. I know you can fix that BMW. If you fix it for him, he can pay off the money little by little." I just looked at Ah Chang. Back when Xiao Wei was my apprentice, I covered for every single car he screwed up. But he's not my apprentice anymore. He breaks it, he buys it. Ah Chang stood frozen, his mouth hanging open. He couldn't say a single word. I stepped around him, and kept walking back to my shop. But after a few steps, I stopped in my tracks. Without looking back, I said, "You tell him, if he doesn't want to completely trash that engine, he needs to pull the intake manifold, and check the piston heads on cylinders 3 and 4. If they're only slightly dented, swapping the valves might save it. But if the piston heads are cracked, he'll have to replace the entire engine block." And with that, I walked away. That night, a little past 10, Sister Lee sent me a WeChat message. BMW was towed. The owner called the cops, and the police showed up. They mediated until past 9. In the end, Xiao Wei refunded 8,000, and wrote an IOU for the remaining 4,000. The engine damage is billed separately. Xiao Wei shut his shop down for the day. I sat in my shop, reading her text. I tossed my phone onto the toolbox, and glanced up at the row of keys hanging on the wall. I took in another 5 cars today. The tags on some of those keys were completely worn out. Then, old Lou from the hardware store next door sent me a voice memo. "Boss Chen, you asleep yet? Let me tell you something. That former apprentice of yours is just sitting in his shop right now. The lights are off, the doors are shut. But he hasn't left. I just walked past, and saw him sitting in the dark, dead still. I knocked on the door, but he didn't answer." The BMW incident had already spread all over town. Old Lou was the first to tell me about the fallout. "Your boy really dug his own grave this time. Didn't make the 12,000. He's out 8,000, and had to write a 4,000 IOU. Engine damage not included." The BMW owner brought in an appraiser, who said the internal engine damage is severe. The repair bill is at least 25,000. Xiao Wei is refusing to accept it, saying it should be 10,000 at most. They were still arguing back and forth, but I didn't say a word. I saw the damage on that BMW's engine with my own eyes. The timing chain skipped a tooth, making the piston smash right into the valves. If they are lucky, replacing the valves and guides might just save it, but if they're out of luck, the piston crowns are cracked, and they will have to replace the entire short block. That 25,000 appraisal was spot on, old Lou added. "Your 3 former apprentices, a Chang, a Ming, and Da Lu, they got into a massive screaming match at their shop yesterday. It was so loud that the breakfast vendor next door heard everything. And what else would they fight about? They're bleeding money. That BMW job completely drained them. Their shop's account is absolutely empty. Those 3 haven't seen a full paycheck in 2 months. A Chang wants to pack up and go home. A Ming says they never should have left you. And Da Lu is blaming Xiao Wei for having garbage skills, and still insisting on taking such a massive job. The 4 of them almost came to blows. I just kept tightening my bolts, and didn't say a word." Old Lou stood there for a bit. Seeing that I had no reaction, he turned around and left. Later that afternoon, I was under an old Camry, swapping out the rear shock absorbers, when I heard footsteps coming through the door. I didn't roll out right away. I finished up what I was doing. Before sliding out from under the chassis, I stood up and took a look. It was a Ming. He was standing in the doorway, wearing a wrinkled t-shirt. His eyes were bloodshot, like he hadn't slept at all. Or maybe, like he had been crying. In his hand, he was gripping that same toolbox. The one I bought for everyone who works in my shop. A sturdy, sheet metal box, with his name pasted right on it, though he had scribbled out half of his name with a black marker. "Boss." I didn't say a word. I just dropped my wrench into the tool tray, and wiped my hands with a shop rag. "Boss, I want to come back." I looked at him. I didn't answer right away. A Ming had worked in my shop for 4 solid years. When he first started, he couldn't even tighten a lug nut properly. I taught him everything, hand by hand. He was never a fast learner, but he was grounded. He never slacked off. When Zhou Xiaowei started talking about leaving to open their own shop, a Ming was the most hesitant one. I actually heard him whispering in the back, "Are we really doing this?" But in the end, he packed up and left with them anyway. Come back to do what? Anything. I'll do anything. I'll wash cars. I'll sweep the floors. I'll hand you your wrenches. Please, anything. I just can't stay over there anymore. Why can't you stay? Ming didn't answer. He just set his toolbox on the floor, squatted down, and buried his face in his hands. Boss, I messed up. I never should have left you. I stared down at his face. Over 4 years, he went from a clueless 19-year-old kid to a real mechanic who could swap a timing belt all on his own. I was the one who raised him into that man. And now, he was squatting right here at my feet. His eyes were all red, and he told me he messed up. But I didn't say yes right away. Ming, get up first. He stood up. You said you want to come back. Well, let me ask you this. After you left, how many guys are still over at Xiao Wei's place? Ming froze for a second, clearly not expecting me to ask that. He thought about it for a moment. Chang definitely quit. Da Lu also said he was leaving. It's probably just Xiao Wei left all by himself now. Then let me ask you another question. You coming back here now? Is it because you know you screwed up, or is it just because you've got nowhere else to go? Ming's face instantly flushed bright red. He opened his mouth, but no sound came out. He just stood there, not knowing what to do with his hands, until they finally just dropped to his sides. Go back and think it through before you answer me. If you're only coming back because you are out of options, then the next time you find a better place, you'll just walk out on me again. Ming stood by the door, his lips trembling a little. He wanted to say something, but swallowed it back down. He bent over and picked up his toolbox, turned around, and walked out. The wrenches inside his box clattered against each other, making a clinking sound, exactly like the day Chang came to clear out his stuff. After he had walked 10 steps or so, I called out to him. Hold on a second. He turned back around. If you don't have anywhere to eat for a while, just come over here. Sister Lee makes an extra boxed lunch every day. Ming stood there, and his eyes instantly welled up with tears. He didn't say a word, just gave a hard nod, turned around, and walked away. His footsteps were a bit faster than when he first came in. That night, as I was locking up the shop, I looked over at the edge of town and saw that Xiao Wei's auto repair shop was pitch black. Out of all the shops on this entire street, his was the only one in the dark. The red banner out front was gone, leaving only 2 rusty nails still stuck above the doorframe. First thing the next morning, the news had already spread. Da Lu was gone. He packed up his things last night and headed straight back to his hometown. He didn't tell a single soul before leaving, didn't even bother to take his toolbox. Chang never showed up to the shop either, and his phone went straight to voicemail. Zhou Xiao Wei rolled up his shutter door all by himself that morning, just sitting inside his empty shop. Meanwhile, right outside my own shop, there were already 2 cars parked and waiting for me to open up. Both were older models, one old Accord, and one old Excel. The 2 owners were standing by their cars, just chatting away. When they saw me pull up, they smiled and waved. Boss Chen, take a look at my car today, would you? The engine temperature runs a bit too high on the highway. I pulled out my keys and rolled up the shutter. That's just how it goes in this line of work. If you've got the skills, the business will always come looking for you. But if your skills are garbage, it doesn't matter how cheap you are. In just 1 month's time, 2 different streets, 2 different auto shops. Our situations had completely swapped. Now, it was my shop that had a line out the door. It wasn't some crazy line stretching down the block, but my bays were never empty from morning till night. When I opened up in the morning, there'd already be 1 or 2 cars parked and waiting. At noon, people sometimes had to wait in line for a bit. Around 4 or 5 in the afternoon, cars would still pull up asking if I could squeeze in a rush job. Honestly, with just my own 2 hands, I couldn't keep up. Sister Lee helped me out on the side, handing me tools and taking down the customers' details. She managed the schedule, and the 2 of us were spinning around like tops. I ran the numbers for this month. After taking out rent, utilities, and parts, my net profit was 8,600. It's not a huge number, but I made that all by myself. Back when I had my 4 apprentices around, after paying their wages and their cut of the profits, the amount that actually landed in my pocket was exactly the same. Now it's just me, and I'm taking home the exact same amount of cash. Meanwhile, over at the edge of town, Zhou Xiaowei's shop had gone completely dead. Sister Lee walked past it every day on her way to get groceries. She told me things over there were getting worse by the day. First, Ah Chang stopped showing up. He wasn't answering calls. He wouldn't reply to messages, and rumor had it he packed up and went back to his hometown. Then Da Lu walked out, and he didn't even bother to grab his toolbox. There was a paper sign printed in black and white, after sitting out in the sun and wind for a few days. The corners had curled up, and the rain washed out all the ink. Nobody even bothered to tear it down. Still, Zhou Xiaowei opened up shop every single day. Around 9 in the morning, the roller door would be pulled halfway up, and he'd just be sitting inside all alone. No cars ever pulled in, and he didn't even stand at the door to try and wave customers down anymore. He just sat there. Sometimes he'd stare blankly at his phone. Sometimes he'd slump over the desk. The other shop owners on that street all said, it was pretty sad to watch. When old Lu told me all about it, I didn't say a word. Old Lu couldn't help but ask, do you really not feel bad for him at all? Feel bad for what? He was with you for 8 years. Yeah, he was with me for 8 years. But stealing my customer files? Picking my locks? Opening up the exact same kind of shop to steal my business? Trashing me online, saying my skills were outdated? He did all of that on his own. But he was just young, they'd say. Being young is a crappy excuse. When I was his age, I was already fixing the cars that nobody else could fix. Old Lu didn't say anything after that. He knew I was right. Then, on Saturday evening, I was in the middle of swapping out a thermostat on an old Tiguan, when an e-bike pulled up to the door. A guy stepped off the bike and just stood there at the entrance. He didn't come inside. I didn't stop what I was working on. But out of the corner of my eye, I saw him standing there for a really long time. I looked up. It was Zhou Xiaowei. He looked a lot thinner. He was wearing an old work shirt. The 4 words Xiaowei Auto Repair were still on his chest. They were pretty faded from the wash. He just stood there at the door, with his hands stuffed in his pockets, staring at everything going on in my shop. All 4 bays were totally packed. Sister Lee was at the front desk taking calls, and I was bent over the hood of a car, wrenching away. He watched for about 2 minutes. I didn't say a word to him either. I just went back to tightening my bolts. He stood there for another moment, then turned around, got back on his e-bike, and left. Sister Lee poked her head out from the front desk. Was that Xiaowei just now? What's he doing here? I don't know. Aren't you going out to check? Check for what? If he's here to get his car fixed, he'll speak up. If he's just looking, he'll naturally leave when he's had enough. Sister Lee opened her mouth to speak, but stopped herself. She gave me a look. Her eyes had something to say, but in the end, she didn't say it. That night, when I finished packing up my tools and was about to lock up, I noticed a plastic bag on the ground by the door. Inside was a bowl of wonton soup, still steaming hot. A rubber band was tied around the bag, with a little note tucked under it. I crouched down, and opened the note. The handwriting was all crooked, written in ballpoint pen. Mister, you haven't eaten yet, right? Xiaowei. I squatted at the door, holding that bowl of wontons in my hands. The street lamp shone down on the soup. A few bits of green onion floated on top, giving off a faint smell of sesame oil. The next day was Sunday. Sometime after 9 in the morning, I heard someone calling me from the door. I walked out to take a look. A middle-aged man in a jacket was standing there. Parked next to him was a black Audi 6. I recognized this kind of car. The businesses in town often used them. Company cars used for personal errands, rarely maintained, and full of problems. Are you Chen Dahe? I am. This car of mine has been shaking like crazy on cold starts lately. It gets a bit better after it warms up. I went to 2 shops, and neither could find the problem. They said it might be carbon buildup, and told me to clean the throttle body and the fuel injectors. Cleaned them, but it didn't do a thing. He patted the hood. Take a look at it for me. I wasn't in a rush to pop the hood. I asked him, when it shakes on a cold start, does the check engine light come on? Sometimes it doesn't. When it does come on, what color is it? Yellow. Flashing, or solid? Flashing. How many times does it flash? The man thought for a second. Never counted. I opened the driver's door, sat inside, and fired it up. The exact moment the cold engine started, it shuddered before evening out. I waited a few seconds, shut it off, and pulled a spark plug. I took one look at the tip. There was white buildup on it, like something wasn't burning clean. The coolant temp sensor is shot. It's sending bad signals to the computer. The computer thinks the engine is hot, so it sprays fuel like it's a warm engine. When it's cold, it doesn't burn right. The man was stunned for a moment. The temp sensor? Replacement is just a few dozen bucks. That's it? He looked at me, half skeptical. After swapping the sensor, I started her up. This time it caught on the first try. The idle was so smooth, you couldn't even tell it was running. He sat in the driver's seat for a bit, then shut it off and got out. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a business card, and handed it to me. I'm from the County Enterprise Association. With your kind of skills, I'll be coming straight to you for any car troubles from now on. I took the business card from his hand. Taking a quick look, the card read, Zhao Jiangguo, Vice President of the County Enterprise Association. Right below that was a line of fine print, Official, Vehicle Designated Maintenance Partner Recruitment. I looked up at Zhao Jiangguo. He gave a little smile. If you're interested, come by my office for a chat next Monday. After Zhao Jiangguo left, I stood by the door holding that business card. Flipping it over and over in my hands, Sister Lee leaned in and took a peek. Is that from the county's big enterprise? Whatchamacallit association? The Enterprise Association. What do they want with you? He hasn't said yet. Sister Lee shot me a look. Hesitating to speak, I knew exactly what was on her mind. If this deal actually goes through, it won't just be about fixing up old beaters anymore. I didn't say anything back. I just slipped the card into my old notebook and shut it. That afternoon, Ah Ming showed up. He stood in the doorway, wearing a fresh, clean t-shirt. His hair was cut short, too. He looked a lot more put together than the last time he was here. He wasn't carrying his toolbox. Boss, yeah? That question you asked me last time. I've thought about it. I really did want to come back just because I had nowhere else to go. But I've been doing some thinking these past few days. Why did I end up with nowhere to go? Because when I took off with Xiao Wei, I hadn't figured out what I actually wanted. I saw him talking about making big bucks, so I just blindly followed him. Now that his shop went under, I wanted to come crawling back. I know I'm a pretty lousy guy. But boss, I'm not coming back just because I have nowhere to go. I want to learn the trade. I worked on a few cars by myself out there recently, and I realized that what I learned from you just isn't enough in the real world. I still want to learn. I looked at Ah Ming. After he said that, he just stood there, his arms hanging straight down by his sides, not breaking eye contact with me at all. Alright, come on back. Ah Ming stood there, his mouth trembling for a second. And then he gave a firm nod. Go install the thermostat on that old Tiguan. Make sure you tighten the water pipe clamps properly. Don't let it leak. You got it. He walked over to the toolbox, unzipped it, pulled out a wrench, and ducked right under the front hood. That whole motion, unzipping the toolbox, pulling out the wrench, leaning in, diving under the hood, done in one smooth breath, exactly the way I taught him before. I stood to the side and watched for a while. Sunlight poured in through the doorway, making the dust dance in the bright beams across the shop floor. The water pipe on the old Tiguan was connected. Ah Ming fired up the engine, listened to the sound, killed the engine, and unscrewed the radiator cap to check it one more time. At that very moment, I suddenly felt that this whole business of taking on an apprentice, it wasn't completely meaningless, but I also knew that bowl of wontons from Zhou Xiaowei wouldn't be the last meal we shared. Monday morning, I headed into the county. The address on Zhao Jiangguo's card was in the county's development zone. It was a 4-story office building with several nameplates hanging by the entrance. The County Enterprise Association, the Private Business Promotion Council, and the Chamber of Commerce Liaison Office. I stood there staring at the signs for a moment. Before walking in, Zhao Jiangguo's office was on the 2nd floor. It wasn't big, but it was kept very neat and tidy. Seeing me walk in, he stood up from behind his desk and poured me a cup of tea. Have a seat, Boss Chen. I sat down, and he didn't beat around the bush. He got straight to the point. Our association has over 40 businesses under it. Together, we have about 70 or 80 company cars. Before, everyone just found their own repair shops. Some went to the dealerships, others went to random roadside garages. Management was a mess, and the invoicing was all over the place. So, we want to find a designated repair shop to manage things uniformly. Unified billing and a unified standard of service. He slid a document across the desk to me. Take a look at our requirements first. I flipped through a few pages. The terms weren't complicated. You needed a proper business license, a fixed shop location, at least 2 mid-level mechanics, and the ability to issue official invoices. I had no problem with most of the terms, but that second one. At least 2 mid-level mechanics. Right now, it was just me and Ah Ming, who had just come back. And Ah Ming's skills weren't quite at the mid-level yet. President Zhao, I've looked over the requirements. I just have one question. Is this designated repair contract exclusive, or will there be multiple shops? The current plan is to have two. One on the east side of town, and your place falls perfectly on the west side. Let me think about it. Boss Chen, opportunities like this don't come around every day. If you can't decide right now, I can give you 3 days to think it over. All right, I folded the document and stuffed it into my pocket, then stood up. As Zhao Jiangguo was walking me to the door, he added one last thing. Boss Chen, you did a beautiful job fixing up that A6. That cold start shaking issue. The dealership inspected it twice and couldn't figure it out, but you solved it in just over 10 minutes. I genuinely hope you'll take us up on this offer. I just nodded, and walked out of the building. On the drive back to town, I couldn't stop thinking about that requirement for 2 mid-level mechanics. Right now, I was the only seasoned mechanic I had. Ah Ming only counted as half of one. I'd have to hire someone else. But hiring someone wasn't the hard part. The real challenge was finding someone reliable. After what happened with Zhou Xiaowei, the whole idea of taking on a new apprentice gave me this unexplainable sense of resistance. It wasn't that I didn't want to teach someone. It was just the fear that they wouldn't be worth the effort. When I pulled up to the shop, I saw Sister Li standing by the door. She looked a bit off. What's wrong? Just a minute ago, the landlord went over to Xiaowei's place. I saw him when I was walking by. The landlord brought a guy with him. Looked like a lawyer or something. They stood outside the shop for ages. The landlord was pounding on the rolling shutter so hard it was rattling. Xiaowei finally opened the door and muttered a few words. He kept his voice down. After that, the landlord slapped a piece of paper on his door. What kind of paper? Looked like an eviction notice. I overheard the breakfast vendor next door saying, that Xiaowei is 3 months behind on rent. It adds up to 48,000. The landlord told him if he doesn't pay up, he's taking the shop back. 48,000, plus the compensation for that BMW engine, and the money he owes the parts suppliers. Zhou Xiaowei must be sitting on at least 70 or 80,000 in debt right now. With the way his shop is doing, he'd be lucky to pull in 2 or 3,000 a month. There's absolutely no way he can pay that off. Boss, this whole mess doesn't have anything to do with us, right? Nope, nothing at all. I pushed my toolbox into the corner and started getting the parts ready for the afternoon. But my mind kept drifting back to that business deal Zhao Jiangguo had mentioned. For 40 companies, 70 to 80 company cars. If I can actually land this contract, my place won't just be some little repair shop in town anymore. And as for Zhou Xiaowei, he's completely backed himself into a corner. A little after 3 in the afternoon, I was busy changing the brake pads on an old CRV. The light coming through the doorway suddenly darkened. I looked up. Zhou Xiaowei was standing right there at the entrance. He had changed his clothes. He was wearing an old, gray jacket. Not that uniform with Xiaowei Auto Repair stitched on it. He just stood there in the doorway, both hands shoved deep into his jacket pockets. Watching me work, he didn't just stand there for 2 minutes and leave like he did last time. He just kept standing there. He didn't step inside, and he didn't say a word. I just went back to changing the brake pads. I finished up one side, then moved on to the other. Once they were installed, I set my wrench down, stood up straight, and looked at him. Need something? He opened his mouth to speak. His voice was rough and scratchy. Boss, could you lend me some money? I didn't answer him right away. I just grabbed a rag and wiped the grease off my hands. I dropped the old brake pads onto the floor, and then I looked right at him. How much do you need? 20,000. I just need to scrape enough together to cover my rent. The landlord said if I don't pay up, he's taking the shop back. I'll pay you back as soon as I get the cash. And how exactly are you going to do that? He froze. For a second, Zhou Xiaowei was completely speechless. He just stood there, staring at the ground, completely paralyzed. I just gave a slow shake of my head. I didn't say another word. I turned my back on him and bent down to pack up my tools, leaving him standing there in the doorway, drowning in his own shame. At the end of the day, you have to walk the path you chose for yourself.